It was strange and a little entertaining.
Like hilarious, right? Like I thought Vadim did a good job of editing. He kind of like there was the arguments. He didn't try to like. I really felt like if he was trying to really bedrock the left side of it, he would
Mm-hmm.
have tried like bringing in some other editing, but he
True.
didn't.
Hold on, I
And I'm
need to
really
turn
glad
this
that he
fucker
kept
down.
it framed because there was no defense for that. So we got Bones in the other room. I don't know what he's.
All right, what's up, man? How are we
Oh
doing?
look, now he's back.
Well, yeah, I have a life outside of Twitter.
You do have a life outside of Twitter. What
Yeah,
does
I
it
know,
consist of?
fantastic.
What does it consist of?
Well, today was going to my grandmother's house. Having Christmas dinner.
Well, that sounds nice.
Yeah, it was nice and lovely,
Sounds so nice.
right?
All right, so tell me why. I'm going to be honest, completely honest with you. Right? I did not listen to, or actually, I did not read all 19 of your posts. I read about the first two sentences and said, you know what? He's having fun on Twitter. I've got better things to do. And clearly you did too since you were at your grandmother's, right?
Right, right.
So now that you're here, we can talk about it.
All right, so let's see. I should probably pull up your Twitch real quick so I can post links in the chat for you guys.
No, he opted out. Where'd he go? Hey, go ahead and say something.
What's up?
Okay, I'm just making sure
Alright.
that
Yeah,
stream's picking you up.
yeah,
Okay, so
I'm
lay
not
it
gonna
out
be
here
able
for
to-
me.
I'll have to post it in your Discord because whenever I pull up your stream, it's taking up way too much bandwidth. Because my family likes to have movies in the
Okay.
living room, so the smart TV eats bandwidth. Anyways, so at first, I think it would be useful to discuss the differences between what sex and gender is. I'm going to post to you a link to the NIH. I'll throw it
I
in
don't
general.
actually need those definitions because
Well, I think it's a good way for us to, start from a common
I
ground.
don't.
Really.
I don't. Well, common ground because gender has everything to do with just the spectrum of masculinity and femininity across the spectrum.
Right, the social roles.
So literally, gender doesn't even matter.
No, it does matter because we're talking about transgender folk. So this is from the NIH.
Right, which is why when it comes to the conversation of right, so like gender would be one of those things that is basically on a spectrum and doesn't matter. So now we're talking about sex.
So the thing is, we in society we use gender when we are interacting with other people. Gender being the social roles that people take
Right,
on.
I get.
We don't
I
talk.
get,
We don't
look,
talk
I
about
get
people's
this
like
particular-
vaginas or penises, or any other
Yeah, but
characteristics for
here's
that
the
matter.
reality. Here's the reality, right? Is we're trying to
We're
we're
rooted
sitting here
in
trying to
reality,
wrap our heads around this idea, right? Right?
right?
Right. So since we understand that gender is just masculine and femininity, or masculinity and femininity across a broad spectrum,
Mhm.
right? Then at this point, gender does not matter because what we're talking about here is the statement that transgender women are women.
Right. Right.
Right.
They're a
and
subset of
but
women.
they're not.
They,
But they're
yes,
not.
they're a subset of the category of women. Just
no,
like
no.
cis women are a subset as well.
No,
Like
no.
black women, white women, tall
No, no.
women, short women, big women, small women, all of them. They're all just
but see, that's not a
categories.
light comparison, though.
Oh no,
See-
that is definitely like category comparison.
It's actually not.
It is quite literally it. Yeah.
It actually is not. And do you want to know why, or are you just going to continue to tell me why I'm wrong?
No, I can be a contrarian.
Because
all
either
day.
A,
Go ahead, tell me.
because see, here's the reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the mind and the body like an engine and a transmission, right?
Sure.
Normal boys and girls when they're born, right, and then they develop into men and women, they don't ever have a revelation that their mind does not match their body, right? At some point in a transgender's individual's life, there becomes a realization that the mind does not match the body. And at that point is when they start seeking help through medical science in order to try to make the body match the mind so that the engine and the transmission have the ability to work smoothly. Because in a man, woman, boy, girl, right, that develops and never has this revelation, there hasn't been any misfiring between the engine and transmission, and the linkage is all running great. But in transgender individuals, the engine and the transmission isn't completely lined up, and then through medical science, there is a way to try to bridge that gap, right? So without medical science being there to basically adjust the transmission and make it work with the engine the way that it needs to in order for this conscious person to experience life to its fullest, that's where you're at with it. So the conversation needs to be at a sex level, especially considering Title IX, and that these individuals cannot be discriminated against upon the basis of sex. Anybody that is transgender is a completely different sex category, because there's a lot of reasons why these people are not the same inside these subset groups, because there is very much a mental, psychological difference, and that's what needs to be addressed, not only for the people that are experiencing it,
I'm going to go through him with the
is
the brain part of the body question,
because they all have their own unique problems that they need to deal with.
Would you agree that the brain is a part of the body?
Would you agree that an engine is a part of a car?
All right, so I guess we're on the same point here. So if, say, a transgender brain, say someone is born with male genitalia, and this person's like, hey, I'm a woman.
Right now what we have is, I don't want you to, I don't want you to mess up the analogy.
I let you talk for a while.
Hold on. I don't want you to mess up my analogy, because I want you to...
Because you're talking about
the engine.
You're talking about the difference between the mind and the body, and I'm trying to tell you that the mind is a product of the body. The mind is a product of the brain, which is a part of the body. So you can't really make this distinction of mind and body, when the mind is also a part of the body, in that the brain produces what we call the mind. So anyways, back into the study that I brought up. Brain scans show that many transgender individuals neurologically reflect their identity, not their assigned gender at birth. Or like whatever they were assigned at, pretty much. That is a misfire between two components of the body.
Right, which is exactly what I was talking about when I said that they
made the distinction between mind and body. So
listen. If the engine is the mind and the body is the transmission, right?
Right.
There's a revelation in between these two at some point in this individual's life that these are not the same, right? There's a misfiring of whatever that is allowing this person to operate like a normal man or woman, because there's not that misfiring. There's not that linkage problem. You mean a cis man or cis woman, right?
That is the
woman.
You mean a cis woman or cis man? You're making the distinction between cis and trans.
No, I mean a man or a woman.
Well, I'm sorry, but science refers to people as cis or trans people in this case. So, yeah, I think we're gonna get hung up on the terminology right here. Cis men and cis women. The term cis refers to people that wish to remain with their their assigned sex at birth, and they choose to. They're born as male, and they therefore want to refer to themselves as men.
Right. So
there's a complete.
Right. So you're over there in your land using your language.
You mean science? Yeah.
No, not science.
Yep, reality.
Not science.
That is what science refers to.
Made up shit.
Nope, that is not.
No. Yeah, your reality, right? But not actual reality.
No, this is reality.
Right, not actual reality for the majority of the country that didn't grow up, right, in the last 10 years. The rest of us grown folks that have been out here in the world hear all of this other language and go, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a bunch of made up bullshit. Why was that not as a part of my education? Now it's all this other shit that's coming out, and the people that are on that side of the aisle don't want to have a conversation with real folks about the way shit is. You just want to
I'm
make up
here.
a bunch of
I'm
shit
on that
and
other
spit it
side.
out. That's what's
Let's talk
happening
about
here.
it.
So, man and woman, and transgender is where I'm at with it.
Nope. When we refer to gender, we are talking about social roles, and if you have someone who has a penis who wishes to ascribe the social roles of a woman, they're a woman. We use woman as a term in society to refer to the gender specific behaviors. We don't use penis and vagina when we talk to people. Like I'm sorry. Like this might be new information to you. I'm sorry, but you know, that's how society works.
No, I've heard all of this.
No.
I've heard all of this
Okay,
language.
so do you ask people if they have a vagina or a penis before you start talking to them?
No,
so you can determine if they're a man
person,
or a woman.
If the
So
person
then why are you
tells
talking
me
about
right
it
off
when
the
we refer
bat
to
that
gender?
they're transgender, gender doesn't matter. We're talking about sex. What
No,
part of
when
this
we're talking
conversation
no,
are
when
you
we're
not keeping
talking
up
about
with?
transgender folk, we are talking specifically about their gender, not their sex.
I don't even know what your argument is at this point, considering the Supreme Court said that these people cannot be discriminated against underneath the sex definition.
You
right?
don't. The
cannot be
argument is that trans
discriminated
women are a
against.
subset of women.
Transgender women are not a subset of transgender or women. They
No,
are a subset of transgender.
nope. There's trans women and cis women. Cis women are correlative to their sex at birth, and transgender women do not ascribe their identity to their sex at birth. That's the main difference between these two categories in women. I'm sorry, this is new information to you, but hey, I'm glad we can get a talk. Come together on
It's
both
not
sides of
new
the
information. I'm telling you.
All right.
No.
Would you like to go over the scientific consensus of this as well?
So let me get this straight. You've already got a bunch of studies done to support your own claims with no counter studies to go against it. Is that correct?
I have a list
There
of
you
studies
go.
that can go that will
Well,
counter your
I just
arguments.
laid it
Do you
all
have
out
do you
for
have
you,
do you
right?
have any scientific data
Because
to
the
back?
scientific consensus back during the
Do you
50s
have
was
do you
that
have any?
lead was all okay to use, and it didn't matter that they were actually putting lead
Okay,
air
okay,
particles
but do you
into
have any
people's lungs,
counter?
right? They're
Do you have
breathing
any
it in,
counter
but it's all
evidence to this?
scientific, right? You don't have any counter evidence, so it doesn't really matter at this point. You only
Oh, I
have
need
your
counter.
specific
Okay, I need
view.
counter evidence. Got it. Okay.
You only have your specific view. You don't even have a complete
Well,
consensus.
why do you think I'm talking to you then? I want your view. I want you to bring me some counter evidence. I want some
of the
counter evidence.
population,
Can
right?
I get some counter evidence, CTV?
Your counter evidence is 2,000 years of history and 95.5% of the
Transgender
American
folk have
population.
existed throughout history
right?
too. You know, two-spirit folk, they exist.
Right, and that's why I feel like it's very important to be getting to the actual
And they exist
definitions
outside
these
of the
things
binary,
instead of
too.
like
That's the thing.
creating all of this other language that doesn't really.
Do you agree that language changes over time?
Language changes over time.
Yeah, like the meanings of words.
Change is pretty much the only constant, right?
Yeah,
Change
sure.
is pretty much the only constant, right?
Right, yeah.
So if change is pretty much the only constant, why is it that you are bedrocking your position the here and now instead of understanding that at the same time?
Because we've gotten a larger understanding.
By your own logic, your language that would then change later down the road as well. So
Sure,
why
I'm
is it that
fine
you're
with that.
trying to sit up there and die on this hill now? That's what I don't understand.
Well, because I am currently ahead of the curve of some other folk, and I think that it is a good idea to bring other people to the present day instead of 50 years ago.
Maybe I'm already ahead of you because what I'm sitting here talking about is
right,
transgender being identified as a sex, right? And you're still getting hung up on gender.
So then you want to say trans sex and not transgender. Anyways.
Gender doesn't matter because all that is a spectrum. Because all that is a
He's
spectrum
5
of
steps ahead.
masculinity.
He's
and
always
femininity,
5 steps ahead of me. So why are we talking about transgender people then? Do you mean trans-sex people? Transsexual people who actually who believe like if you change your body you're now this sex, as opposed to like you're a man before you change your body type thing? Because that would be the transsexual folk. I'm talking about transgender folk. which refers to the social roles, where you only need a social role change in the fact that you're now moving your own roles to fit the gender that you are,
Ah,
instead of just the
so
body.
I'm glad you brought this up. So here it is, right? We got
Right.
man, we got woman, we got transsexual, and then a transgender woman would be a subset of transsexual, right?
Mm,
It have to be.
no, they're all
It
a
has
subset.
to
They're all a
be.
subset under the
Look,
trans
I don't
community.
understand.
Hold
What I
on.
don't understand is that how all of these lefty arguments keep coming to me, and then like the more information that I get, the more I only get bedrocked in my position.
Give me like 2
I
minutes.
don't know what.
here they are.
See, isn't that look? Hold on, chat. Come on, Pack.
All right, so
Hold on. I'm talking to the chat now. So this is where we're at, chat, right? So I got out the whiteboard.
okay, so
I
he's
like
just gonna
what
keep
it is.
talking about this. So, anyways, yeah.
Here. So
So
this,
he currently
right?
has no counter evidence. This is something that he said personally. He's not going to bring up counter
right?
evidence,
And
but any
then
counter evidence
have
for the counter
trans
evidence that
men,
he does not have. It's
trans
incredible.
women.
He doesn't
Right?
say anything.
Or
he has no
before we
arguments.
thought it was transgender.
He takes so long to say nothing. True. Anyways, I'm just going to mute him too on my end because I really don't give a shit about what he's trying to say. He has a whiteboard. Yeah, I know. Look at his stream. It would kill my stream because I'm already running on a very little bandwidth at the moment.
How far did it go? I haven't moved my goalposts at all. I just feel like they just keep giving me information to. So
Yeah.
so Franny B, you're saying it's transsexual is a subset of transgender, but
No,
that doesn't-
transsexuals are just a or a subset of the trans community in general.
Yeah, but so when I
Yeah.
look at the definition here, and I like definitions, right? It says denoting or relating to a transgender person, especially one whose bodily characteristics have been altered through surgery or hormone treatments to bring them into alignment with their gender identity. So,
Right.
what yours? So, yes.
Is there something immune about
Hey,
having a
okay.
vagina or penis?
Right. I got it here. Hold on, chat. Thank you, chat.
Is there something
No,
immutable
chat's on it.
Oh, really?
Chat. Look,
Dang,
I'm
if
telling you,
only
chat.
my chat only fed me
Like,
information.
I don't know. Maybe your chat's not as smart as my chat. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, buddy. Sure.
All right, so here we go. We got
Thank you.
so we got transgender up here at the top. That's absolutely correct, right?
Yeah, trans women are women, y'all.
So we
Easy.
got male, female, or man, woman, right?
I'm not gonna look.
Wife.
I'm not gonna look at his
Like
stream.
it.
It's not.
Everybody see that?
It's not gonna be productive.
And then we got transgender. I'm telling you, chat is on this because transgender is from birth. They haven't had the benefit of medical science to be able to get anything done, right? So through medical science, that's where transgender, right? There can be transgender
I just gave him an argument for.
TGMs.
He's just gonna try and figure
men,
this out.
and there can be transgender women, right? And over here we
Excuse
have
me. I forgot
another
to mute myself.
actually this wouldn't even be a,
I'm
this
sorry,
wouldn't even
Al.
be an arc off. This would be just a straight line to transsexual,
So, anyways, trans women are just a subset
right?
of women.
And then from here we could have TSMs and
He's still
TSWs.
going.
right?
He's still going on this.
Chat,
This
is
is
that
incredible.
following?
It's
Because it
it's
certainly
amazing.
seems to make sense. We got transgender because we got to go from birth, right? And then we got transgender males, transgender women.
It's
They
amazing
haven't
trying to
made
get in.
the
He's
change
trying to
yet,
wrap his mind around.
But once
this.
they
It's
make the
amazing.
change, they kind of go over into
He's
sexual
learning in
category
real
and go
time.
this way.
It's so beautiful.
This could be,
Actually, I could watch his stream on my
Yeah.
phone real quick.
this is almost like a V that comes back into it, then TS, and then there's another branch. Right?
Oh, he actually does
Right,
have
so
the
that's
whiteboard
kinda-
out.
Those two
Mhm.
kind of V back
That's incredible.
together.
Transsexuals
Yeah.
used to refer to trans
But
people,
still,
mostly
it's
used for
trans.
those who
So I guess
use
maybe
the
up
terms
here instead
gender
of
and sex as
transgender,
synonyms, but which they're
It's
not.
actually just trans. Right?
Pardon?
Would it just be trans, and then it would be transgender male woman, and then transsexual, and then transsexual man and woman. All right.
Well, no,
We're drawing it out.
transsexuals just believe that you have to
Franny
change
B?
your body in
I like
order
that.
to match your gender.
I think Franny B's on it.
It would otherwise be known as like transmedicalists, really. That's probably the
Hold
more
on,
accurate.
hold on. You know what? The other thing we've got to do before you get started is we got to ask the 8-ball a question.
All right.
And I think
I'm going to post a
'cause
list of the people that say that, or not the people, the organizations that make a distinction between sex and gender for you.
should Franny B be a VIP in the chat? Because that was a pretty good explanation there. Helped me kind of get to that point.
He has no arguments. It's insane.
Oh, look at that! And the 8-ball says yes. So
Damn. Oh, he killed me with the 8 ball. Oh no.
Whatever
shall I do?
At
8 ball.
Franny B Annie.
Does anyone
There you go,
say a prayer
Franny.
for me, guys?
Now you're a
8 ball's
VIP.
it's gonna murder me. All right.
Yeah, because inside the subset of men and women, you would have gender across a broad spectrum all on its own, right? Because there are men that like to just cross-dress, right? So then that's a thing too, and that's where you can't take away from one community to be able to allow another community. You have to be able to see these things for where they are. So we got man, woman, trans, and I think that's
He's
okay.
getting so close to it, but he's not get there. So yeah,
cross-dressers, sex discrimination because they are seen as a sex, right? So,
people that cross-dress don't necessarily have a different gender. They could see it themselves as affirming their masculinity if a man dresses in a dress. It could.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why that would be more of a gender thing because that becomes across the range of masculine and feminine things that people do,
Sure.
right? So gender doesn't matter. Sex is the only thing that matters. We got man, we got woman, we got trans.
People identify as their gender, not their sex. That unless you want people to start identifying by their sex, which means you have to start identifying by what genitalia you have. And even then, you would run into the issue with the intersex community, where there's a subset of people who have who have different gonads.
But here's the reality, right? If you just
I'm talking about reality.
Trans, yeah, but if you just say, "Hey, I'm trans," right? Then, like, you just go, "Oh, so it's like a mystery box."
Not really. Trans people are just a subset of whatever gender they ascribe to be.
Man. You know that shit was funny. It's meant to be a joke. I mean, if you just say you're trans, like, unless you're going to be getting involved with the person in a sexual way, they might not even bring that up. Like, why would they just bring it up? Like, I don't bring up that I'm a man. It just kind of is what it is. So if you don't bring it up, people
you're about to get the trans panic argument where people discover
about to do what?
You're about to make the sort of trans panic argument where it's this whole thing where you have to tell people your genitalia or else like you could get beaten up for being trans and the person that does it could it won't be liable criminal or at least a crime for hate crime, that's what it is. For like attacking a trans person because I didn't know they were trans, and then you got scared and beat them. Like I don't see why you have to like tell people your genitalia unless you're gonna like have sex or something.
You don't have to, right? You don't have to tell anybody that you're transgender. You don't have to tell anybody you're a man.
Yeah, you can just tell people you're a man, woman, non-binary, like whatever gender you want to describe yourself as.
Right?
What's the point?
Tell me what your point is, right? Because what I'm saying is that since gender doesn't really matter, then when it comes down to this idea, this categorization of people, when you say transgender woman is a woman, that's disingenuous.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
It is.
No, it is not.
It is. Like, I literally just made out the whole chart.
No,
there's
a subset of women, cis women, and there are trans women. If you're going to refer based on that, that is the two major categories.
I don't know what that language you're making up there. See, I don't have that language. I got man, woman, and I got trans, right? And then trans, right? There's transgender
Well, no, trans
men,
folk
transgender
can fall
women,
under the umbrella of
right?
man or woman
And
or
then there's
non-binary.
once they can make all the full change, they become a transsexual, right? And then once they become transsexual, then you got another break off again between basic men and
I
women.
probably
right?
shouldn't have told
So
them
the difference
transsexual people
is,
because now
and
he's going
you've
to try and
already
make
said
this argument.
the
gonna
same
be
way, like
painful.
we actually agree, you're not listening, is that there's there's a linkage happening between the engine, which is the mind, and the body, which is the transmission, for normal men and women that never have
The
any
brain is a
type
part
of
of the body. It is a disjunction between different parts of the brain or the body. The brain has
right.
is
So
operating
whenever
on
I
a
say
different
that
thing than the rest of the body.
okay, is it because you're not a mechanic that you're not understanding the relevance here? Is that what this
No,
is?
no, I think you're just trying to make an arbitrary distinction of like the mind being separate.
You say it's arbitrary, and yet
well, yeah,
because the
brain is a product of the mind is a product of the brain.
Revelation.
Like the whole it's all mental thing. It's not really when they're like
Right,
synapses
it's all
going
a
off
mental
in
thing, and these
your
people
in your
have to
brain
come
that
to
are
the
saying, "Hey, I'm a
realization.
woman."
These people have to come to the realization that their mind and their body do not match, and that through medical science they can do things in order to make the body match what the mind thinks. That's the whole point, and that's why I'm talking about an engine and a transmission and how that linkage needs to be able to work together for the vehicle, which is
So
this
what's wrong with calling
person's
trans women women then?
whole self-image, this person's whole self-image, the way they see themselves, the amount of confidence they have,
What's up,
everything
Neat?
about them is through
How you
their
doing?
perspective and the way that they see themselves, right? This is all the vehicle in which it's trying to be driven, right? So the
Thank you for following.
engine and the transmission for a normal
to the
man or
bone
woman
zone.
never goes through any type of mismatch or skipping of a gear or anything like that. There's never a revelation, but for a trans individual, there absolutely is, right? There is a revelation that happens because they have to realize that the mind and the body doesn't match, right? There's no way to test for this because there is. It's simply a psychological thing that has to happen, and it's not something that is developed over time. It has to be something that started from birth, and that's why at birth, when the sex is being determined, your male female from the start is based only upon your genitalia, but once you have this revelation that you are different, it changes to trans, and that would be the group that you would become a part of as an adult.
All right, so what's the problem with calling trans women women then? Like we can
Because they're not
agree.
women.
No, they are.
They're trans.
They're trans women, just like there are cis women. Like we can go. We're just gonna go in circles on this, but you are assigned a sex at birth. It's not determined.
Nowhere.
There is no
like that word cis.
There's no definition of sex, and
it's man, woman, trans.
We
don't
define
get to come
words.
along and make up new language and then replace all the old language. The old language is still there, and that's what I'm using. Right? Is man, woman, and trans. Right?
Trans is a subset of man and woman, and non-binary.
No, trans is its own
category. It is not
its own altogether.
It is a category within man and woman and non-binary.
What are the reasons that we agree on? You're not getting it for the same reason.
I'm not getting it. Yes, of course.
Of course you're not.
Tell me how you...
I even drew it out on the fucking whiteboard.
So you can call trans women trans women.
The chat gets it.
Yeah, being trans is not a gender. It's not. There's no gender that is called trans.
So if trans can't be a gender, what has it have to be?
Man, woman, anything within the non-binary spectrum.
It has to be a fucking sex. It has to be a sex. It doesn't have to be.
We don't talk to people based on their sex in society.
And again, you're referring back to the social construct, which is a gender, and what we're sitting here talking about
refer to people by their gender, not their sex.
When you say a transgender woman is a woman, and you want to put it over here in this category over here, but it's not. It's actually in the trans category over here.
CTV, how do I know that you are a man?
How do you know that I'm a man?
Yeah, how do I know that you're a man?
Well, you could just ask me.
Right. This refers to your gender. I'm not going to go around asking people what their genitalia is to determine their identity. I'm not
planning on tickling something.
The point I'm trying to get here is trans is a descriptor. It's not this. It's not a category of gender on its own. It is used to describe someone of that gender. You can be a trans man or a trans woman, just like you can be a cis man or a cis woman. Cis is a descriptor. Trans is a descriptor. We use gender in society. We talk to people. We refer to them by their pronouns. We don't use sex in society. We don't use sex broadly in society.
But the bathrooms are based around sex, are they
Nope,
not?
they're based around gender.
No, they're not.
Do
They're actually
do
sex,
people
which
check
is
for
exactly
genitalia
how we
before they
get
go
in
into
this
the
whole
restroom?
conversation.
Are there people guarding the restrooms that make you have to flash them in order to
No,
go use the restrooms?
Okay, so now you're saying that just because there's not checks, that there's no verification. This is kind of one of those where, like,
exactly, because you can't really. It's not practical to verify people by their sex.
when they have
It's not
been
practical.
for a number of decades. You know, maybe
People
even,
use bathrooms
I would
based on
dare
their
say, a
gender.
number of centuries, right? So these bathrooms have been based on sex for a number of
Nope.
centuries.
Nope. I don't care
Yes.
about. I don't care about the appeal tradition. I care about what they are actually referred to, and it's by their gender. It is not by their sex. Is there someone that sits outside of your restrooms, or not your restrooms, but like restrooms in society that check your genitalia before you use the men's restroom? Or do we base the restrooms around the societal use of man and woman, which is the gender of a person?
We base the bathrooms around sex.
Nope.
Because it's
Please give me some evidence for
male
this.
and female.
Please tell me where there's evidence of this.
The last couple hundred years of history, bro.
I'm gonna need something more than a broad gesture. I need some empirical evidence, my guy.
Public places, and people stop shitting in the woods and digging the hole for it, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much where we're at with it. So, the last couple of hundred years, we've had male and
I can guarantee that trans folk can use the restroom of their preferred
sex.
Trans folk use the restroom of their gender, not their sex. Or at least
tell
they tend
me
to.
why there are urinals in the male bathroom and not in the female bathroom. Please tell me this.
Because people who tend to be men, people who are men tend to have penises. They tend to. Not all of them, but
they weren't based on sex.
They also have stalls as well.
But again,
you can
trying to stay inside that framework
piss in a stall with a penis.
We've already identified that trans is the third sex over here, right? Which
trans is not a sex. Trans is not a gender. It is a descriptor.
Sex, right? So, Chad, I don't feel like he's doing all that well.
Okay. Sure thing.
I don't feel like you're doing all that well, dude. I drew it out on the whiteboard, right? I've literally taken you all the way through how it's structured in my mind. And no part of this is any of it transphobic. And at the same time, it's all
Well, you're
facts.
just like completely wrong. I've already explained to you that trans is a descriptor, not a gender or a sex.
I'm not wrong.
Sure, yeah, of course, yes, the whole contrarian argument. I'm not wrong. There, that's so great. But we as people use the gender for bathrooms. So
then why don't you tell me how a transgender woman is in fact a woman whenever transgender women and women do not share a similar
Infinity, just throw it on his stream.
Or cognitive self-realization. Women don't have to go through a cognitive self-realization to find out that their bodies don't match their minds, but transgender women do.
So that doesn't make them not women.
Psychological difference.
You yourself are calling them trans women. You're using the descriptor of trans, and you're classifying them under a subset of women. So, yeah.
I'm classifying them under trans.
No. Trans is a descriptor, not a gender.
Men and women. There are men.
Is trans in of itself a gender?
jeez.
Is trans in of itself a gender?
I've explained myself.
Does anyone
don't
in the
have
transgender
look,
community
look,
identify as trans as their gender?
apparently, you feel like at this point, I feel like the conversation's kind of broken down, Bones. You say you understand what I'm saying.
You assume that it was
I'm
there
glad
in the
you
first
understand.
place.
I've already told you that I understand why you're saying what you're saying, how you got to that point, and why your definition of things is not as accurate
Sure, I've been
as
destroyed because
mine
he said
is,
he was right.
and you're refusing to concede, and that's okay, right?
But the problem is you actually
not very productive at this point.
you disagree with the scientific consensus here. I'm telling it right here. The APA, the American Medical Association.
We've already pointed to leaded gasoline as the scientific consensus that.
Say that again. Tell me about the leaded gasoline shit. Because the consensus changed on that, and so far the consensus has not changed on trans folk.
Agreed that language changes too, and this is why I asked you why it is that you're trying to bedrock yourself on this particular language.
Why are you bedrocking yourself 60 years ago? Why are you bedrocking yourself on a definition from 60 years ago,
with another human being about
it was never rational when you started.
Everybody. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So
you're stuck in 60 years in the past, my guy. Like, come to the present. Come to 2020. We have colored TV.
It's actually 20 years in the future.
Oh yes, when we start essentializing gender and sex again, that's 20 years in the future, of course.
No, about how, since the Supreme Court ruled that these individuals are protected under the sex definition, right? That now there's a real conversation to be had about men, women, and trans, right?
Trans is not a gender.
Completely different. Trans is.
We're gonna keep going over this every time we get it wrong. Don't worry.
Different from men and women because there's no self-realization, right? And then once you understand that you're trans,
so there's no self-realization in a cis woman,
because now you're going to have to figure out your spectrum.
Do cis women do they not realize that they're women?
Spectrum of masculinity and femininity.
Hey Chad, if you're a woman, have you realized that you're a woman?
Once you go through all the changes,
same with men. Can we get that in chat? Has anyone realized that they're men in chat? I'm just curious. Any cis men, any cis women, please tell me. Have you realized your gender yet?
Why are you talking to my chat?
I'm talking to my chat. Calm down.
Oh, you're talking to your chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep. One of my cis women in chat have said that they have been a woman this whole time. So yeah, we've blown that argument out of the water. So you're saying that cis women cannot realize their own gender, right?
She agrees with me 100%.
I don't care. I care more about the scientific consensus on the matter.
Yeah, and you know what? The scientific consensus had everybody breathing in leaded gasoline too. So,
and that changed, and the scientific consensus said, "Hey, that was bad," and so we changed our behaviors to improve society.
Category. Why it should be considered
trans is a category under men and women.
Just not agreeing, and that's okay. You don't have to. I'm not. At this point, it's kind of being annoying.
Yeah, you don't have to be right. You do have the right to be wrong. That is right. I do give you that right.
I'm not. Except I'm not.
Well, I've been BTFO'd. You said you're right. Cool. So any more memes? Do we want to talk about the trans dino shit?
It's not even a meme. Like, I'm just letting it out there.
I mean, your arguments are memes now.
Right? And then subsets of trans are trans men, trans women, right? Transgender women, transgender men, right? And then once they go through the surgeries and all the hormones, then they become transsexuals, right? And then there's transsexual men. It's like that's how that works.
No, they'd still be classified under the umbrella term of trans. There's still trans women. There's still trans men. They're both under the umbrella term that is called man and woman. What's up, Sasson? I'm glad that you're in chat. What's up, man? You can talk on Discord. I know you're here.
Oh, hey, yeah. I was just listening to you guys talk. It seems like you guys aren't really conversating. Like it seems like you're talking past each other mostly.
Yeah. He's not talking to scientific consensus. I am. Anyway, he's having a good time trying to learn this. I'm here for it.
It seems like that you're talking to yourself. Like you're not really talking to CTV and acknowledging
Well, I know I
his
can't
position.
convince
Keep
CTV
going back
because he's just gonna
in
like
a
revert to
circular
his.
way.
He's just gonna revert to his bad arguments. So I'm more or less trying to talk to his chat vicariously through the medium that is Discord.
Okay, let me ask you. You said earlier that what did you say about the brain?
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So, when we look into this, trans women or trans men, like their brains correspond to their desired gender starting from an early age. Like they have this realization that, oh, I am a woman, or I am a man, or I'm non-binary. Like at an early age, they may not have the vocabulary to describe it, but that's who they are. And everyone has this self-actualization at this age as well. And this also happens in trans folk. That's pretty much what I'm saying. When we refer to men and women, we talk more or less about how they behave in society, whether they behave like a man, woman, non-binary person. Like it's pretty easy. We don't just like look under their skirts or their pants or whatever and say, oh, they're a man or a woman, and then they start conversating.
Well, if you're saying that, yeah, sorry, your voice is cutting out like in and out.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
I don't know if it's your connection or what, but
yep, it is mine. So
my question is like, if somebody in their brain, like they decide in their mind that they are something, and like how does that like let's say I grew up and I believed that I was not a woman or a man. I believed that I was a dog, and I grew up feeling that way at a young age. And science identified that my brain was almost like a dog's brain, and like it had similar characteristics. Like, does that mean that I'm a dog?
I'd probably need some scientific research in this. I would say that I'm agnostic on this because I have not seen anything to indicate that is an actual thing that exists. Though I'd probably say, like, just going off of my own feelings, that yeah, that's probably a valid thing. That could be.
So you have to identify me as a dog.
Sure. If you want to go down that.
Using that logic.
Well, like I said, there's nothing that I've seen in the literature that says that, but should that be the case, then sure, I would do that. Yeah. I would say, hey,
okay.
Yeah, you're a
Okay.
dog. If you wish to call yourself a dog, then yeah.
And then I have to make my own bathroom like a dog bathroom.
Sure, yeah. Or we could just have gender-neutral bathrooms for everyone.
No, but what if I want my own bathroom for my gender, like dog gender? Sure. We're very marginalized.
Yeah, that's fine.
Part of the community, therefore, we deserve our own bathroom, like separate from the other genders.
The problem is, like, this doesn't generally happen in society. We don't have like scientific evidence to back it. So I'm not really comfortable like making the argument that there is a thing as a dog gender, though. If there is scientific literature that does indicate that there is a dog gender, then I'm fine with that. But I operate under science, not like feelings or like
no. But
these bad faith
in my
attack
brain, I
arguments.
believe it's true. Therefore, it doesn't matter what your science says. Like in my mind, I feel it. My body, I feel like that. Like I'm gonna like if a person says they feel it inside. Like, isn't that like basically the whole like meat of your argument that if somebody feels that they're a certain way, therefore society has to treat them that way?
I'd have to look at the scientific literature on this. I'm not really going to make an argument when we have no information to go off.
Does the science matter? Like if a person feels that they're a dog?
I'd probably treat them like they'd want to be to make them as comfortable as possible, but like I really don't think that's like an issue in my opinion. If we're just going straight off of what I feel, I don't see that as in anything of an issue.
Okay.
Like,
and then you have to. Society has to conform to my feelings that I am like. If an individual says they're a certain way, society must conform to that individual, regardless of the choice of society.
If by conform you mean just
they
refer
must
to them as a
because
dog, then like maybe like show them like an outdoor like dog
like
area. Like yeah, sure.
Yeah, but shouldn't that be something like an individual choice? We shouldn't be able to force people to
We
identify
shouldn't
them as
force
a
people to be
dog,
discriminated
right?
against, or we shouldn't allow people to be discriminated against. So,
Well, is it discrimination if I don't identify them as a dog, and they
yes,
themselves
because you aren't
identify themselves as a
recognizing their
dog?
identity as a person. You're or dog in this case. You are being disrespectful by not like referring to
Okay,
them by
so
their preferred.
if somebody identifies as a dog and I don't acknowledge them as a dog, I'm being disrespectful to them
Yes.
if I don't acknowledge them as a
Yep.
dog. But does that matter? Like someone can
To their
disrespect me
to
in
their
many ways, but at the end
yeah,
of the
that's
day,
bad.
does it matter to me as an individual what another person thinks of me?
Maybe to you, no, but like some people they don't like it when they're being misgendered in society. Like,
Yeah, plenty of people don't like it when they're
right, right,
disrespected, right?
right.
Yeah,
All
Especially
right,
when
and
it's
chat.
if
We
done
got
on
another
we
purpose.
great.
When you have
We
people
got.
that
Hold on. Chat. We got another great one for the '80s. This one goes out to everybody out there in the chat. Hope you enjoy. All right, go ahead, boys.
but the problem is that trans folk are marginalized in society regardless. They have higher suicide rates due to the environments that they're put in by other people, due to the bullying and the discrimination that they face. Like they're actually a marginalized community, and therefore we need to enact protections so that they are less likely to
so
suffer that sort of
so
thing. It's the same argument that we could do with the
so we should
1964 Civil Rights Bill.
so you're in favor of favoring certain individuals based on their gender or
Yes,
their race, right?
I'm in
Is that
favor
what
of
you're trying to say?
protecting
Like
like
we should treat
I'm in favor of
people
protecting
different based
minorities'
on
rights.
immutable characteristics like uh, race or gender or like basically you want to treat
Race
people
isn't
differently
immutable.
based on these immutable characteristics instead of just treating everyone equally.
The problem is not everyone treats people equally, especially when there's when they've like been facing this discrimination for X amount of time. We need to have protections for these
So
folks so that
you have to
we
put them
can
on a
bring them.
pedestal. Is that what you're saying?
No, we don't put them on a pedestal. We're just trying to bring them in line with the rest of everyone, really.
Okay, so we
I
give
could we could
them
make the
extra
same argument
privileges.
against the 1964 Civil Rights Bill and any other civil rights bills. It's a common libertarian argument. But go on. So you're saying that we should just not use 1964 Civil Rights Bill because everyone should just treat each other like they should,
Well, I think
even if they face
in
discrimination in
reality we
society,
should treat everyone equally,
and that doesn't
right?
happen in reality right now. So we need to protect
Well,
for
that's
these
what
folk until we
we should
can get them
strive
in
for is
into in line with everyone.
equality for
Right.
everyone.
And usually we have to enact policies to do that, because otherwise they're going to continue to face this discrimination. It
No,
could
but
probably get worse. But we need a
the
we need
problem
to
is
enact
when you
this.
I don't know, I listened to CTV stream for 1 second. I can
I mean, he can laugh all he wants, but it doesn't make him any
just
more
it's the
right
music
or
that he
less
has.
wrong. Sure,
Pretty epic for this conversation.
I can only imagine.
I forgot what we were talking about.
You want to just not legislate anything to help out a
Well,
marginalized
I don't
community?
want to prioritize one
It's not prioritizing.
group over another based on immutable characteristics. Like everyone should be treated equally under the law.
They should be, but they're not. They're currently not in society. Therefore,
How so?
we need to enact. Well, for one, there is transgender discrimination against folk. We have things like the whole bathroom bills thing, where people like we need people to go into their bathroom based on their sex, because a man who walks in to a restroom might sexually assault a little girl, or some dumb argument like that.
Okay, that's one. What do you have? What else do you have?
We can also talk about there's also like the whole trans athletes thing.
Yeah, that's what is that?
There's like discrimination with trans athletes that are not based on anything scientific, but rather just really just transphobia. I can show you meta-analysis on this.
Like, can you explain it? Like, you just were very vague in that statement.
Okay, so with the trans athletes thing, the analysis that I showed you, it reviewed.
That goes out there for all the wild and crazy people in the chat. We
Okay.
certainly appreciate you being here and not being anywhere else.
So, like, trans athletes face substantial discrimination, and sports institutions do anti-trans policies that are not based in science. A anti-trans policy would just be like,
What does that mean?
just based on your sex, like whatever you were assigned at birth. And usually trans athletes, when they have to transition for X amount of time on hormones before they can compete according to science. Like, it's between like 1 to 2 years, as far as I know.
Well, I don't know. For that issue alone, I think there's a lot more nuance to that, and I feel like
Really?
it's almost like we have to create a separate division, right?
No, not really. I
Oh,
mean,
why not?
Do you have any evidence that suggests that like trans women are overperforming, or?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, there's
y-
loads of evidence for that.
Sure.
yeah, I think
go
in
for it.
every sport and every
Please, just
essentially
link
every
somebody,
type of
man.
competition, you see trans women performing at the higher level of
Like the
Just-
highest level and
yep.
breaking.
Are they
records.
breaking
I mean,
world?
like,
Are
I
they
just
breaking
pulled up
world
Gateway
wide
Pundit right
records?
here. We've got,
Show me the evidence, my guy.
yeah, they're breaking world records. We've got one
Can you-
here
can you
that
post it?
smashes a
Like,
female
in your Discord?
weightlifting. Yeah, dude, just Google it. Like,
No,
literally.
I want you to present this to me so I can look at it on my stream.
and it's
I'm
about
not-
like I think it's called the Pareto. If you look it up, I think it's called the Pareto distribution. It's like how people are distributed at like the upper echelons, like where would they line up
Can you link this to me?
based on all other individuals, and
Franny,
it shows them
Exactly.
being at the higher
I just want you to
levels.
link this to me. That's it.
and I don't know, I think it's just common sense too if you just think about it.
Well, then just link it to me and I'll look at it. I'm not afraid of going over shit on stream, so tell me. Give me a link.
But
I mean, I've provided
Yeah.
everything that I've talked about. I've provided a link to it. So
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got from that big app. That's pretty much what I got from it.
But anyways, yeah. So transports, you want
you know,
trans women
but the point is the
to be
meta-analysis that I
in
showed.
women's
Like,
sports, and
there's no direct
because
or
we're not
consistent
allowing
research
trans
to-
women in women's sports, that is
Okay.
disparaging trans women.
So
and
here,
not
I need,
disparaging
Assassin,
women.
I need to stop you here so I can read the description right here. There is no direct or consistent research suggesting transgender female individuals or male individuals have an athletic advantage at any stage of their transition. This is a meta-analysis of 8 research articles and 31 sports policies. And that's what I've been talking about this whole time. So, this is what the scientific literature says.
So that's your one source.
Here's
that,
it's a meta-analysis of 39 different sources, 8 of which talk about the consistent direct research suggesting that trans folk have any athletic advantage, and the 31 sports policies talking about that they're being discriminated against is an anti-trans thing. So really it is just 8 and 31 versus 0 and 0 so far, if we're going to go off of numbers.
Okay.
Like, I need,
Where does this study? Can you?
I
can
linked
can
it
see
into the
study?
Discord.
I'll look
It's
at
in
it.
the Discord in general. And I can link you some more here from the National Collegiate Athletic Association. Here we go. The NCAA, actually. Boom. And I can read you this brief thing right here. Any athletic advantages a transgender girl or woman arguably may have as a result of her prior testosterone levels dissipate after about 1 year of estrogen therapy. So, after transition, the supposed athletic advantages dissipate. So I would want to form policy around probably, like, say, their hormone levels and determine, hey, if they're cleared to go and compete at an athletic level.
Well, I don't know, hormone levels isn't the whole equation, right? You have the body mass, you have muscle.
And I refer to the
way your
meta-analysis here.
Your muscles, your bone density. You have just thinking about you as an individual growing with a certain set of hormones that gives you a specific advantage over another individual, right?
That's
and
not what the literature
you
says,
let's say one individual has certain hormones that creates stronger
he's not gonna
muscles and bones and
right. Imagine using data.
Essentially a stronger body, and then the other individual doesn't.
Again,
and then
towards hold on.
Let me finish. Towards the end of towards the time when they're going to compete with each other, the individual that has the hormones that created a stronger physique, stronger body and bones, started taking hormones to match the individual that hasn't had this advantage. It's essentially like doping, right? Isn't this what doping is? It uses like hormones to make certain people have advantages in like a sports game.
I mean, that can happen with anyone, really. That's not necessarily exclusive to trans folk, which is why typically science wants policies that sort of puts them in a range of like hormone levels, so that they have like no reason to dope or anything. They can't use like anything to give them an unfair advantage. People have to go through drug tests all the time. Well, the scientific literature doesn't say that, so I'm going to need something to contradict that. That is within the scientific literature.
Oh, like just think about like, okay.
I would want you to link it too, by the way.
Yeah, I have a link right here from chat.
Go for it.
Yeah, Sans, if you don't mind me stepping in here.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna mute myself.
So, Bones, here's the questions that I got for you. Ready?
Sure, go for it.
Man, I hope you're ready.
Yeah.
Because. So here's the question I got for you. We have a lot of examples of transgender women that are going through these particular types of hormone therapy that are beating world records in the women's category. How many examples do you think that there are of transgender men, right? How many examples do you think there are of transgender men that go through a similar process that are then beating records for men in similar categories? I.e. like weightlifting.
Well, I have no idea on the number of either side, so...
I'm just going to take a stab in the dark here and say there probably isn't any.
Okay. That could probably just more or less be a focus on like women, because protect the women and all that. But
right, protect the women, which is exactly what I'm talking about here. This is why my
you're not protecting all women with your position.
Oh, buddy, that's the thing.
I'm ready. Hit me with the sources.
So, here's the reality of the situation.
So I'm going to provide a counter-argument here.
We both
question.
understand that there are significant differences between the male and female body.
Just like there's a significant difference between someone who's 7'2" and 5'9".
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So
should we exclude the 7'2" person?
Hold on.
Because they're big and tall, and I'm short.
Hold on. right? So we understand that there are differences between men and women.
Yeah, just like there's differences in testosterone levels between women and other women, and men and other men. You know, you could have man with a high T level and a man with a low T
So
level as well.
right. So here's my point:
Which is why we
that we don't
operate
have
within our range.
examples because that we both understand that there are differences between male and female bodies, right? And that even though you change the hormones in a female body, right, and start giving it more testosterone, right, that the men that develop it naturally, right, especially like in categories like weightlifting and stuff, are able to retain their because there has already been a men that have peaked their bodies to the top performance in order to set some of these crazy ass world records with weightlifting, right? I mean, these guys can fucking
Can we
bench
just go into the examples?
redwoods.
Because I
You know
know
what I
you
mean?
want to go into them. Can we just go into the
Because
examples of
because
this
it's
so that we
natural in the animal kingdom, which we are a part of, right? As much as we would like to get out and away from that
okay.
fact,
Can I
male
just stop you
bodies
here real quick?
develop stronger
He's
than
not gonna
female
stop.
bodies. That's
All
pretty
right,
much
so
like
yes, he is
across
just
the whole
gonna talk out
kingdom,
of his
so.
ass. He doesn't have any like evidence for this. Okay, so the problem with this argument is I've already provided like a meta-analysis that shows that there's no like competitive advantage with.
So you're not
trans
even
women.
addressing my points. You're only talking about your points.
No.
This is exactly the problem that we're going to have, Bones.
Well,
right?
you're
Because
talking about
slow down.
Okay. All right.
Slow down. Because what I want you to do is to consider what I'm saying, because that's how a conversation works.
All right,
That's
so
why
I'm
I
just
said,
gonna
hey, I want to
have
ask
him.
you some
I'm not
questions.
gonna listen to what
And I
he's
want
gonna
to be
say,
able
'cause,
to
you know,
talk to you and
I'm
you consider
kinda
my
just done
points and
with
what I'm
this shit.
saying and put it together logically.
Yeah,
in your
he's
head,
not.
because what
He
I'm trying
like
to
I've
do
already
here
addressed
is to
this
paint a
argument
picture,
with
not to
Assassin. I'm
change
trying
your
to address
mind,
it again.
but only give you the ability to be able to see the world how I see it and how it all works in my mind, because I'm not trying to change your mind.
All right, so
I'm
can we
only
talk about
trying to
reality then?
illuminate you to the way that I think.
Can we talk about reality then instead of what you think?
Infinity, welcome to the
Hello.
Discord. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? How was your holiday?
Oh, jeez.
Outstanding.
That's great to hear.
I got to just spend the last couple of days
I
with
need
the
water.
wife and relax. It's been very nice, very peaceful.
Sounds
I'll be right
beautiful.
back. Get some water. Infinity, you can take
Oh, you
over.
could. Sure. I would like to bring some stuff up. I think it would be helpful, CTV, if you like linked him more, websites that affirm your positions, because it seems like Bones is really focused on getting links and internet sources. So if you want to hit him where it hurts most, I would recommend linking academic sources that back up your opinion, because that seems to be what he cares about most.
I get that, but that doesn't. I don't know, like the whole framing there, hit him where it hurts. I'm not trying to.
Well, in terms of being an effective argument to convince him of your positions, it's Bones in particular. Think of it as have you ever played Pokemon?
No.
Okay. Well, in Pokemon, there's fire, grass, and water elements. Let's say that
like
Bones is a fire.
It sounds like the last Airbender.
Yeah, kind of. Think of it like that. So Bones is a water type, okay? And grass is most effective. And, well, this is kind of different, but let's say that, Bones is a water type, and statistical data is what a grass type is comprised of. And in order to, be most effective in conveying your opinion to Bones, you would have to hit him with a grass type, which is,
Yeah, but here's the
data
reality.
and statistics.
Here's the reality of that situation, right? Is that you just say, oh, well, just Google something to support your links and then throw that at them, right? So we can either A, sit here and talk about actual philosophy, right? And actual positions and how we should think about these things. Or we can sit here and just play, I'm going to be a Google data mine for the night and just throw stuff at people that they're probably not going to read anyway. Let's be real.
Well, I do think it's...
They might read like the first couple of sentences. They kind of think, oh, okay, so that's what he's saying. And then they just move on to the next thing. Let's just be real, right?
I do think there's an interesting philosophical argument, but it's also good to analyze
Because the
data.
reality is
Well,
that when you're
the thing
sitting
is,
there
he's
just having
talking about
conversations
just
with people,
he's talking about physical
hold on,
things, though.
Bones, right? So so when you're sitting there having these conversations
Hang
with
on,
people,
Bones. Come on.
right?
Sorry, CTV. Continue.
So what happens is it's when you're sitting there having these conversations with people, understand that you can pretty
He's
much
not
Google any position
make
that you
an
want.
argument today.
Find something that somebody
He
has
won't
written or and
make
then
an
just throw
argument
it on a particular
today.
topic, right? What we're all
He's
sitting here trying to talk
just
about
gonna
really is
engage
what
in
most people say is just anecdotal life experience, right?
anti-intellectualism.
But that's all the experience that every individual only has, and
But,
that is the most relevant to another individual. Nobody gives a shit about what you can pull up from Google and throw it at them right there, because then all
Well,
you're
it's
really
not
doing
anything
is being
from Google.
combative, and you're not actually trying to engage with that person.
So
it's not
okay.
just let me address that. It's not just like from Google. It's like academic resources. It's not just some random ass article.
So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I want to have
look,
genuine
finally.
conversations with people. And
Yeah.
Bones, you were muted, right? So they could still hear you, but Chad didn't hear you. So I'm going to unmute you now.
I'd like to kind of respond to that.
What did he say?
I do think. He's. I don't exactly remember. Sorry. But yeah, I do think
I'm just gonna
that
look at
philosophical
this.
arguments, they're interesting. They're fun to engage with. Same thing with anecdotes. Anecdotes are relatable, and they can help you explore different points that might be foreign to you. But when we are having a discussion about something like as controversial of a topic as this, I think it is important to analyze data that is observable and has been checked by other people who are, more knowledgeable than any of us in these kinds of fields. So I think it is important to look at data and studies that look at these issues in very close detail.
So what would we expect to learn outside of the conversation that we were having?
I think it's important to take a look at Bones' sources and see if they have any merit.
Bones, if you can explain like the study that you posted, and maybe through the methodology we can identify whether or not it's accurate in its conclusion. Because I feel like what he did was just, here's a link to my source, and then didn't really explain what the source, how the source studied and what it took, what information did it take, right? There's always because if you look at it empirically, where all trans women are competing in sports, they are dominating like the top end of the sport, regardless of what sport they're competing in. They're always you don't see them at the bottom end; they are always at the top, and I think that shows. That's a whole lot of data right there that you can just think and identify what it is. Speaks for itself, I think.
Alright, so I can definitely review this. So, if we can go into the...
So you actually don't know what those articles are, like how it's studied?
I'm looking at the one that you've
individual trans issue, like...
The method
I'm talking about your personal article that you posted earlier as your source. Did you actually look through the methodology and how they identified that the men or the trans women are not advantaged?
They used
what did they compare it with?
31 sports policies. Research articles meaning the research articles regarding trans physiology.
It just looks really confusing, and that doesn't have a.
How
did they identify that?
You can look at it through here. The full article is literally right here. So.
Can you explain to us, instead of having us read your article, you can explain to us how it is empirically true?
We can look right here. We have 31 relevant papers. So here is the selection stage right here. They're going to look through it and all that. And so then the eligibility stage, it's basically trying to remove some of the articles that we might not think are relevant. And so the 10 papers that were excluded from here, there would be abstract right here. We have 6 from the LGBT category, one of them being a survey, another one being a book chapter, another one being an irrelevant topic, and another one with cisgender participants right here. And now there's 21 papers left for retrieval, and then there's 8 eligible papers that met the.
This is
the
really
full
confusing,
inclusion
man.
criteria.
Like, you
13
can, if you
13
can
excluded
just
for-
summarize,
So basically, they did a
can you
selection
just summarize the
process.
study, and that way we could identify whether or not it's a good study?
So basically, what they did was they like removed anything that was pretty much irrelevant to the topic at hand, and they only kept the things that were relevant. So if we want to look here,
Relevant. Well, see that can be like relevant to their point, right? You're basically picking and choosing
we
what
can
you
like
use
read through this.
in order to come up with a conclusion that you like.
Do you want me to read this for you? Preferred reporting items
No,
for systematic reviews and analysis guidelines.
it seems like you've already read it and understand the whole science behind it. I just wanted you to explain it to us instead of having us read your article. Like, can you give us like a summary of how they identified, like, yeah, how did they identify that there is no advantage?
So here's.
And if you can't really
the-
simplify it into like this is how and this is how it's done, and I feel like you're just sending
So-
articles and making us read for you.
So here's the terms that they used to search for their things. They used physical activity, exercise, and sport. This is how they searched for their things. They used a bunch of search engines. If I can find it right here, Science Direct, Web of Science, Scopus, and PubMed. Do you have any issues with those specifically? Oh wait, here we go. For the search engine, the following search terms are entered. That too.
You're really confusing the crap out of me right now. Like, I
So-
just want to know what
They use search engines to.
you're talking about. Search engines right now.
They use search engines to search for these studies, and they put in like relevant terms such as like gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder, and they also used terms such as physical activity, exercise, and sport that were only dealing with trans people in sports. Was that good?
Is the one that you're using the one that's in the general chat?
It's the
got-
meta-analysis. It's the sport and transgender people, a systematic review of the literature.
Yeah, it's NCBI. CTV, I would like to entertain that question you had, because I think that could be a really interesting discussion.
Okay, what's the question?
Oh, right now?
I'm so fucking bored of this.
Yeah.
What was the
Oh,
question?
okay.
I'm so fucking
You were
bored
saying
of
it sounds to me like these individuals really need their own league, and I would kind of like to dive a bit deeper into that, because let's be honest here, it doesn't seem like sports are really that much of a meritocratic system, because there are things that give people unfair advantages. I have some studies here that show that there are some genetic variations that do appear in high-performing athletes, and especially that do impact their performance. So sports, a really easy example I can give of this, somebody who's like 5'6" is not going to be able to perform very well in basketball as compared to somebody who's like 6'8". That's a
Muggsy Bogues at.
yeah. That's a very obvious comparison, but we understand that that's really unfair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
just kind of life, though, isn't it?
well,
Yep.
I do think that in a league of sports where we do want to think of it as something that anybody can work hard and achieve something great, I would like sports to be meritocratic. So going back to what you said about there should be a specific league, I do think that sports should be tailored based off of these differences that people have that impact their performance and abilities. I think that it will be difficult, but I think that would be the most fair.
Well, you got to consider things like this, right? Is like there's no such thing as an I in team, right? And pretty much any team sport that you're playing, you're going to have to play as a part of the collective towards the end goal, which is probably putting points on the scoreboard, right? So that's why, at least for me, so long as there is no medical manipulation of the body, right? If somebody genetically from birth had this particular set of gifts and they could perform at X level because of that, and it wasn't something that they could have went and like had implanted in their body, or it's completely natural. That's where I kind of feel like their participation in sports should be at, right? If you're manipulating it outside of that, otherwise it's like all those people, like Barry Bonds, right? Juicing up Mark McGuire, I think he was juicing, getting a lot of home runs, and then they can't get into the Hall of Fame now because of that, right? So
Genetic doping, I think, is gene doping is I think what you're getting at, like, because it does enhance your body athletically, and I do think that we should have more distinct categories than just men and women, because there are people in these categories that should be competing at a very similar level. For example, I think, is it? I'm just trying to get a name right.
That would be kind of more like an argument for like the Olympics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I think that in especially physical sports, like ones that require brute strength and everything like that. I'm not talking about a sport that's more mental or anything like that. But genetics play a big role in physical sport, like cycling or weightlifting, things like that. That's what I'm mainly talking about when I say sports. I just want to say that to clarify my position, just to be clear. So as I was about to say before I forgot their name, I feel bad. But Janae Marie Kroc is a power lifter who is a trans woman. And they, in their league, they compete against male-identifying athletes. And I think this is a really good example of something that I would want. I would want people to compete in not leagues of their gender, but of their ability. So that way we have a sports system that is more based on, how hardworking somebody is. Yeah, how hardworking somebody is, how much they train. I want them to have a title they can earn.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is something separate.
That's a bit.
Yeah, I'm saying that I think that the classification for sports of men and women is just not very meritocratic as we would like it to be. I think it should be something, like weight classes and things like that. Maybe even
create a division.
testing.
No one's really stopping people from
It's
creating their own league,
that
or
That's the thing, too, though. People like to
down to
pretend
like the
that-
number of
We're
dollars that you can
talking
throw at a
with
particular
CTV,
problem,
yep.
right? It's like if there's a market for a league.
Film Affinity.
That's why I said
debating
that,
with
like,
me at
maybe
this
that's
point,
something for the
Assassin's in
Olympics,
here.
right? Because that's something that a lot of the countries get
But,
together and say, okay, we're going to be
man.
competing in like shot put or
I've already
bobsledding,
gotten
or
my main
like there's
arguments
the
in,
events,
like,
and then like there's
I kind of shifted the topic to
qualifications
trans
for
people in sports,
people
'cause I
of
was talking
certain
about
groups,
discrimination.
depending on what sport
in
is.
those areas,
Because
and I was
there's like male gymnastics and
enough
female
information on
gymnastics,
that to go
right?
for it, so.
I watched a lot of that growing up with my two sisters. So Dominique Mucciano
And
and
now I'm
Dominique
sitting down
Dawes,
because
great fucking gymnasts back in the day, right? But
Yeah, I remember watching one of their performances, I think,
yeah,
at the
and then
Olympics.
when Nancy Kerrigan fucking
But yeah,
Mhm.
Tanya Harding went on. So like there's a conversation there to where maybe it's we need to get through this language of we've already had a lot of male female sports categories. Maybe
He's
it's
about
just
to
about
be-
saying, okay, now we had the men's, we had the women's, now the trans, right?
no.
And then go into that.
It-
I don't know.
It's also
Yeah, and
the
so-
problem of you're trying, like, there was a fighter who basically switched genders, an MMA fighter, and basically didn't tell anybody. So some of the and was fighting women, and he transitioned at like 33 years of age, and he had been an MMA fighter previously. So this is someone who grew up training as a male, fighting males his entire life, and then decided at 33 years of age, because he was basically just an average level competition in
talking about
comparison to
Fallon
like
Fox?
UFC and stuff.
So
I think so, yeah.
So yeah.
And then
sorry.
We
Fallon
can talk
Fox,
about
and
that,
then
too.
so, but these women don't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of them just came into this thinking this is a female. So that's the other problem too. It's like if you're going in there and you who was that? Some UFC fighter just agreed that she would fight like Jake Paul. Like that's different because she's agreed to
yeah,
I'm willing to
There's
take on this
consent there.
competition. Like there's no consent when you just transition and you're a male who's been a male your entire life playing against females.
like
Yeah,
I don't know
Okay,
how
the
you
problem
can
what you just said was that
I think
you
I
have to
could-
get, like,
You
sorry.
can
specific
deny
time
the
to be
advantage.
cleared
I would like to bridge that into like what I want. I want to kind of disband the categories of just men and women's sports. I would just want like sports
I-
based
Well,
off
why
of people's
disband
ability.
it? Why don't you just
Well,
on?
you know that there isn't that anyways, right? Like the NFL and the NBA do not restrict females from joining. They just take
Mhm.
Okay.
best athletes. So if there was an incredible female athlete, then she would get drafted.
Oh,
Like if there was someone
then
who
I
could
think
compete at that level, the option is.
I think we
no
should adopt that
rules
system
that
for all
allow
sports.
Fallon Fox.
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure it mostly is that way. Like they call it men's soccer and women's soccer, but I don't think there's actually a rule. There might be for soccer
yeah, but and
specifically,
then here's the
especially for the
problem.
NBA and the
Like,
NFL. There's no rule.
because even if they call it men's, sports, right? And they're like, there's maybe like, say if it's the NFL, maybe they got a female kicker, right?
Mhm.
Okay, it's still it can be called men's sports because it's still the majority of the people that are there are men. You could do that all the way up to 51 or 50.1%. Then once it gets to even 50, then it would be like, oh, okay, so then there's that right in the middle ground, and then it would go back to, okay, so now it's majority female. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like the language of it, people I think get hung up on a lot anyway, and that's why I say like the only thing is like the Olympics is where. Because anything outside of that, whether it's football, baseball, the only reason why that's even a fucking sport is because people are willing to pay money to watch it. The Olympics has kind of been one of those things over
I want to get out of this
the
now.
centuries that's kind of got all the countries together around a few different sports. So
That's
Yeah,
the other thing. That's what I was going to try to point out too. Is that this is at the end of the day, this is a business. This is for entertainment mostly.
it is.
You know.
Yeah, but like if people are concerned about fairness, like with trans people in sports, I think it would be better to have people face each other of comparable performance and ability rather
Be
than
up
just
to them.
having these gender categories. Yeah, of course, if they're consenting. Yeah,
Implementing that would be so hard. You know what I'm saying? And you can't just force leagues to do that either. That would be an issue too.
implementing it would be hard.
I don't know. Like,
Why would
came
it be-
Like,
from-
if you wanted to force leagues to do that, you would have to like genetically test people. Like,
So it
what
seems
if
like
someone doesn't want
Mifinity's
to consent to a
agreeing.
DNA test or something? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Miffinity
I don't-
seems like you're agreeing that a trans woman has an advantage over a biological woman.
I think that tall men have an advantage over short men in sports too. Like I think there are different
so I
advantages
agree
that
there.
people have. That,
So you
like,
can also
then the
agree that
argument
trans
would
women
be-
do have an advantage over.
sure.
I mean,
but
not all trans
the
women
average-
are created
average
equal.
man
Like not everybody
is
has
larger than the
like
average
more
female,
T
period.
levels than like. It depends on scenario, but I would say that there are absolutely differences in genes that impact performance.
yeah, that's why like for me, especially since I'm really like based around nature, because
love
there,
Oh, he is definitely
because there is a cognitive realization that happens inside of a trans person, and when they realize that there's needs to be some type of change happen with the body in order for it to match the mind, and then when they start getting actual medical help through science in order to do that, that's when it leaves the realm of nature and everybody competing at that level, and now it's like who's got the next upgrade for this drug or whatever to your body, and now it's literally not competing on the same level. It needs to be all natural, like in order to be. That's the way I think it should be.
Yeah, I
think about
well,
it like
I
this,
would
too,
want
like-
to make things the most fair as possible in sports. So I think we can come to agreement when we want to pit people against each other based off of performance and ability. Like I think CTV, you and I would agree. Like just having people that are unmatched, it's just not fair. I wouldn't want a 5'6" basketball player being up against some 6'8" monster. I don't think that's. I think I agree with you.
If it depends though, if you're talking
If
about
they
one-on-one,
agree with it, then yeah,
if they're
obviously.
talking about a one-on-one, then it just depends. But like,
Yeah, if they
like,
agree
if
to
you're
the
talking
match,
about
that's
a team-
different. But
Look,
if you're
look,
talking
hold
about
on.
a team sport, though, someone who's 5'6" is can dribble the hell out of someone who's 6'8" because they're so short, their center of gravities are lower. They can dribble right by them.
Yeah, I'm saying
And
it depends.
So it's
like,
for team sports, you know.
It depends, like, obviously, but
So reality is there are a lot of differences between people. You're saying that the differences between the sex shouldn't matter, and I'm saying that it does because of nature, right?
Well, we can also say
I'm
the
saying
exact
I'm
same
saying
thing
that all
with height
differences,
and
like, between any kind of people, like, they do have an impact. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody's trans or like, tall or black or white. Like, there are like a bunch of differences in people, and that all makes them people. But you know.
But to track each and every one of those genetic markers would be extremely invasive, first of all.
Well,
And
you don't
it
have
would
to
be-
do that.
Yeah.
You
I
can.
mean, that would
you
be
just-
the only way to
you just test
truly
hormone
implement
levels.
what you're talking about, though.
Well, not necessarily. No, you could document performance and abilities based off of games, the amounts of points they
But then
score.
what if somebody just goes on a really terrible streak? That's like an
Well, we have
like a
averages,
real-time-
don't we, in statistics?
Sure,
Like,
that's like a
there's always
real-time
going to be
NMR
statistical
system, though.
outliers.
an ELO rating system or something like with chess players. Like you could just throw a bunch of matches and just be really bad just to get in the lower league and then dunk people. Like you would have smurfing IRL.
Well,
You
doesn't that
pretty
happen
already
already?
have that.
If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Like,
You have like
I
Michael
don't
Phelps
think
who's
so
been
because you're in the
whenever.
when you're in the big leagues, like you get a lot of
years.
money. Like you have incentive to stay there.
mhm.
Like I mean,
Yeah, I'm mainly talking about big leagues. Like, I just want things to be more fair, you know?
yes, but by doing that, you create a lot more leagues, and most of them would not be as big as. You know
I
what I'm
don't-
saying?
I mean, I don't think we'd have to make specific leagues, just kind of have different orientations, I guess, based on ability.
Well, I think if the
Like, if
leagues-
we're talking about total fairness, then I think that would be a good idea. But like, if people want to compete in the same leagues, they're free to do so. I'm a libertarian. Like, if people want to do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Go
but that's where it crosses that line to where you have medical science involved, right? For whether it's hormone therapy or whatever it is, and then their bodies are not natural, right? And
Well,
that's where there's been a long debate happening over the years, especially with, like I said, with the guys that were hitting home runs. You know, sports there's been a conversation about the use of medicine and performance enhancing with drugs for a while.
Right.
A lot of the same things
The problem,
that these
problem is
individuals
this isn't like a relevant
have to
thing
go
when we have,
through
like,
are some of the
drug
same
tests.
things
We
that
have
might be
drug tests
used
to determine like,
in
if
order
people
to
are
give
fit
that person an
or
advantage.
clear to go
And
go.
that's where, like,
And like
you know, all these sports are for entertainment purposes only, strictly speaking. The Olympics is the only one where it's more of a cohesion between the nations. There's always been like a pretty close scrutiny of drug testing, etc., with regard to the Olympics. Because I think there was actually during the last Winter Olympics that were in Utah, there was a guy that was supposed to be bobsledding or skiing, but he popped positive for weed, and he couldn't fucking compete just because he smoked some weed. So
narcs.
right,
Ugh.
yeah.
so they do their testing, right? And that's where, you know, that's where it's kind of at for me, because I understand there are some real differences between the three types of people, and that's, you know, when it comes to sports, I mean, people are they're ultimately going to pay to watch what they want to watch.
Yeah.
You're kind of going to be able to force them anyway. So
on
there's
the
a-
Olympics
there's a
thing,
market for it. I'm just saying that, like, there's probably a big market for a trans-only league, depending on what sport you pick.
Yeah,
because
there's a market for anything. Like, if people want to watch like a match where it's just like total underdogs over people who will win every time, like, you know, that's like fine. But I think what I'm trying to get at is in a very I'm trying to present a thought experiment of, like, if we want to make sports truly equal, we would probably disband the category of men and women's sports, and then, you know, have it based off of different
well,
like,
if you made,
attributes.
if you controlled everything to the point where it was exactly equal, nobody would ever win the game.
Well, no, that's not true, because
That is true. Somebody has to win. If everything is exactly equal, then nobody wins.
so there's a difference between having the same opportunities to, you know, win and play against, than the outcome being the exact same. Like if if you have clones of people, they have the exact same DNA and everything. That doesn't mean that they're going to perform the exact same in the game, and then that they will just follow every single movement of every person. Like you have a difference between equality of opportunity and then equality of outcome. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think that's
Right,
what
and
Nacho.
basically, yeah, but here's the reality, right? Is that if you cut the legs out from everybody, and that's essentially what you're going to do in order to create.
That's a little morbid. See,
Well, that's literally what's going to happen whenever you go to make equality, to make equity rather than
Equal
like equity at
outcomes.
the end of it versus opportunities.
I don't want
at
equity.
the
I
start.
think that opportunity is better on equity.
Okay, and like that right there, especially within the conversation of sports and trans individuals, it's much better, I feel like, from a marketing standpoint, from a competition standpoint, and frankly, being able to build like a culture around a sport and it only be trans individuals and be like, nope, men and women, y'all didn't fucking want us, right? So now we're going to go do our own shit. And we're all like, cool, now we can watch trans individuals compete with each other, which is going to be something very unique, right? And they wouldn't have any of the restrictions from non-drug use, right? So like all the way around, I'm like, oh shit, we used to have, this one chick, right? Now
So
she's
fucking
done some
watching
changes
TV
around.
and
Now
shit.
she's a dude, right? And now
Fucking
she,
cool.
It's a load up on testosterone and HGH.
yeah, I mean, she's like all up on some shit, and she's just knocking people over. You hand her the ball, she's running through the whole fucking line.
Oh
Like,
my god.
there's a lot of, I don't know. I think there's a market for it.
If people want to participate in trans leagues, and if people want to watch that, that's fine. Like, if people consent to that, go ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. But I do think it does become a problem when, like
When it's the
athletes
other way
consent
around.
to. Well, no, when athletes consent to, against other trans athletes, and they consent as well, but they aren't end up being able to do those matches. I think that's when it becomes a problem, or when it's seen as like bad because both parties are consenting to it. Like, I think that's like kind of none of the business.
And if I may add, like,
Yeah, but the same
trans people have been
disparities
able to
happen
compete in
within
the
the men and
Olympics
women
since
communities
2004.
on their own, right? I mean,
I'm muted.
who was that?
Oh, it's
There's
Bones.
Bones, I think.
Trans people have been allowed in the Olympics since 2004.
Really?
Yeah, they actually have. Here, let me
Wow.
find the link.
That's
And
actually
what
really interesting to me. I didn't know that.
categories were they allowed to?
Yeah.
They developed it. Blah, blah, blah.
So ultimately, it's down to the players and whether or not they consent.
Yeah, I think that's what we should operate most things in society on. Like,
And it's
Yeah.
also if the players are good enough to make the cut.
Right, there you go.
yeah, I mean, it should be on.
That's the problem too. Like you can't just say, "Oh, well, you're not." I got cut because I'm trans. Like, no, you got cut because someone was faster than you. Like that's going to be a problem that you're going to have too. Like,
Wait, they wouldn't
So?
be in.
I know you're. I'm just talking about right now coming into this. Like,
Like in
I'm
modern
not talking about
society,
if it's a trans
then
league, because everyone would be trans, of course.
Glockosaurus Rex, welcome to the chat.
that's a great
But yeah,
name.
ain't it
Nice.
though?
I really like that name.
So
And
that's
there's-
just where, like, all of the way that I'm kind of been thinking about it, went through the entire line of thought with Bones. I really wish Bones would have slowed down a little bit more to maybe consider what it is that I'm saying, the reasons why I'm saying it. But that's all right. Maybe we'll try again another night.
Yeah, maybe I
I'm
could.
definitely down
Especially
to,
in the sport debate, it definitely becomes more fair because, especially with, like I was saying, with when medicine gets involved, that changes you know, the considerations, you know, across competing between people that are going to have immutable characteristics like height and weight and
Mhm.
you know these things, and they're already trying to compete versus somebody that's over there with another advantage of being introduced hormones that they are not developing naturally in their body. So
Mhm. Yeah, unfairness happens even outside of the realm of, you know, different gendered, you know, leagues of sports. So I think it's, you know, I just kind of wanted us to take a deeper look and see if, you know, how we can make things even more fair, you know? That's kind of what I wanted to entertain. I'm glad that you guys looked into that with me. It was fun talking about that.
Yeah, likewise. I'm gonna dip out. I'm gonna do my own thing on the stream. So, thanks
yep,
for
as a matter of
talking.
fact, this is going to be my my out for the for everybody in the call. I appreciate everybody that popped in: Nacho, Bones,
brother.
Maffinity, and Sass. And I want to say goodbye to everybody in the chat. And then we're going to figure out where we're rating. So appreciate you guys coming in tonight.
Are you streaming?
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks for having
I'm
us.
streaming right now.
Yeah,
So, brother.
that's
Cool.
cool.
Peace out.
Later.
Peace.
Later. Oh my god, that was painful. That was actually painful. I didn't think it would be this long. But it's a lot shorter than the other debate that I had where I kind of just sat in there for 4 hours.